The Washington Wizards just made a few moves to officially commence the one thing no NBA franchise wants to have to do, the dreaded rebuild. In a matter of just a few days, the Wizards got rid of all their star players to start Operation Rebuild, and it is completely the right thing to do. But the caveat is that with most NBA rebuilds, teams at least have assets to help them set themselves up for future success. But the Washington Wizards don't have much, if really any, assets and keys to help them successfully rebuild in the first place. Before we go further, if you enjoyed today's video, please drop a like. That helps a lot with getting my videos to new people, and if you enjoy my content, then please subscribe. Enjoy. For the past 5 years, the Washington Wizards have been in a difficult situation, to say the least. They have been in this position where they have their star in Bradley Beal, and he's putting up astronomical numbers over the past few years, but doesn't have the pieces around him to take the team to contention. So they've been in this middle ground where the team isn't good enough to contend, but not shit enough to get good draft positioning to take a talent that could help propel them to contention. It's a tough spot to be in for any organization, but with this series of trades and acquisitions over the past week along with the draft, I don't know how the Wizards are going to complete the rebuild and do it successfully. Let's discuss all that has happened to the Wizards over the past week to officially commence Operation Rebuild. The first order of business was Bradley Beal pulling out his no trade clause out of his back pocket, sending himself to Phoenix along with Jordan Goodwin and Isaiah Todd for some table scraps you would probably feed to your dog. And Chris Paul, who wasn't going to play in Washington anyway, along with Landry Shamet, multiple second-round picks, and a couple of pick swaps. This trade is dog water for a number of reasons, but it doesn't really matter anyway because of Beal's no-trade clause. He kind of controls his own destiny in that, right? Because he approves the return. After that, the next order of business is getting rid of their number 2 guy, Kristaps Porzingis, Mr. Tingus Pingus himself. You ship him to Boston in this blockbuster 3-team trade before the draft, and the Wizards acquire Tyus Jones from Memphis, Danilo Gallinari, and Mike Muscala from Boston. With the acquisition of Chris Paul, the Wizards knew what to do with CP3 and flipped him to a contending team. With that in mind, the next move the Wizards made was they sent Chris Paul to join Steph Curry in Golden State, and the Wizards acquired a professional ladies' man in Jordan Poole and a 2030 first-round pick and a 2027 second-round pick. As you can tell, the Wizards aren't getting many meaningful picks to help build their future. This year, Washington had the 8th overall pick, and they wanted to trade up to acquire their prospect, Bilal Coulibaly? Hope I'm pronouncing that right. So they make a trade with Indiana where they give them the 8th pick along with one of their second-round picks and one of Phoenix's second-round picks they got in the Bradley Beal trade. So here's the full list of what the Wizards gained and lost in the past week. Take a second to let this sink in. Okay, good. Let's continue. I know it's a lot. With all these trades and acquisitions, the Washington Wizards haven't really gained all too much to rebuild off of. The lack of first-round picks is really going to be tough for the organization going into the future, because now you are in a state where, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Kyle fucking Kuzma is now your first option, but even he is probably not going to re-sign now that he is a free agent. With Kyle probably going to be shipped at some point in the offseason, the Wizards can possibly get another good player too if they play their cards right. And like with the Wizards having a plethora of guards on their roster, I also see Monte Morris getting traded too at some point. But right now, the immediate concern for the Wizards is getting size, because right now the roster is way too small. The only caveat for the Wizards is definitely the cap space. They'll tank hard next season, but the 2024 free agency could have some stars that might want to come to Washington next offseason, and hopefully they'll get a good prospect out of next year's draft. In conclusion, I think the road will be definitely rocky for the Wizards organization, But I hope this new management team they have will mean that maybe in the near future they can have a solid footing for success, because the fans sure as hell haven't seen any success in a long time. I personally believe that they are going to come out of this rebuild successful, and hopefully they'll have, again, like a top prospect at next year's draft, and they sign a big free agent. But let me know what you think the Wizards are going to do in the comments below. That's about it for me today. Please consider dropping a like and subscribing, but you could also share my channel with maybe friends, family, or anyone you know that likes sports content on YouTube. It'll help a lot. Thank you for watching. Peace out.